Welcome to Rubber Band Live, the Australian recruitment and talent acquisition vodcast and podcast. I am Eden Haddock, your host and the creator of Rubber Band, the recruitment network for all. Let's go live. And we are live. Welcome watchers and welcome listeners to today's episode of Rubber Band Live, which is Spark Up Early Talent to really fuel your company's future. And I am joined by Lou Zoanetti. I'm thinking rhymes with spaghetti and I'm calling you. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, which is the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome, Lou Zoanetti Rhymes with Spaghetti. How you doing?
I'm really well. Thanks, Eden. Thanks for having me. I'm in Melbourne, so I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. So it's really nice to be able to acknowledge the different parts of Australia that we're calling in from. So yeah, it's really great to be here. I'm really excited to talk about what is my favourite topic in the entire world, which is early careers talent. Woo-hoo. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited to catch up with you. You're always so full of energy. But welcome everyone that's listening and everyone that is watching. If you are watching live, remember you can put comments into the box, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook or LinkedIn. We will try and address as many as we can. So any questions that you've got along the way, pop them in there. But I think the best place to start, Lou, for those who don't know you, is for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career and your experience and, yeah, who you are. Let's hear all of that. Festival of Lou.
Yeah, Festival of Lou. It's a broad brief. No, so yeah, really lovely to be here. Lou Zoanetti, rhymes with spaghetti, very easy to remember. I am an early careers specialist. So I have been in the area of early careers, which we define as the period of time from high school right through, whether you study at university or TAFE or just go straight into the workforce, really from high school right through to your first 3 to 5 years of working. So I'm a specialist in that early careers industry, and I've been working in early careers for 13 years. So I actually started working in marketing and communication, having done a PR degree. So writing's a big part of what I do for work anyway. But it's interesting that, you know, after about 6 years of working in Marcoms, I was working for NAB and I was asked by someone if I'd like to work on the grad program. And there it all was waiting for me. I didn't realise that I'd built a whole business around working with grads and interns and young people generally in terms of getting them into work and getting them ready for work. So yeah, I worked at NAB for 9 years in total and ended up managing the early careers programs there. And then I went to Monash University to head up a centralised internship function for the uni. So I had a large team and we were doing internships for 7 faculties at the uni. So really getting to see what the unis do to prepare students for the workplace. And then 4 years ago, I started my own consulting practice, Brightworks.
How fabulous. Now, you might have been at Monash when I was at Monash. We've never talked about this before. I worked at Monash as well. That's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've never talked about this.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big place, of course, as you know. But sometimes there's small, like you do find that you meet people, you see similar people to get again and again. But no, I don't remember crossing paths, but I'm certainly glad I got to meet you now.
There you go. Now, I love early careers as well. I'm really excited. I'm doing some facilitation at a high school on job readiness next week. And I'm pumped for it because I love that audience. I just, it's fab. It's going to be so much fun. But tell me yourself, Lou, like why are you so passionate about early careers? Why have you chosen this pathway for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've been thinking about that a lot because early careers, a lot of people work in early careers at some point in their life, in their work life, if you're in HR or people and culture or talent. Most people might touch early careers at some point, but there's only a select few of us that kind of stay around and stay in this space and really make it our wheelhouse in terms of our specialization. I think for me, I really love the dynamic nature of the environment. So I like that there are lots of trends that are constantly changing. There's some things that are done regularly, and it's a very specialized way of attracting people into an organization and really preparing them for the work that they're going to be doing. But I do like that it is at the forefront of innovation as well. Like I feel that a lot of grad and internship programs are a great way or place for organizations to try new things, whether that's a new, diversity, equity, inclusion strategy, whether it's, a new way of bringing people into work, preparing them for work. It's usually a really good spot to try things in an organization. So I really like that part of it. And I think anyone who's in early careers just likes the outcomes, really likes to genuinely see people at the start of their career and see the great outcomes of a really robust program that's going to set them on the path for success. And I love seeing, my NAB grads back from when I ran that program, now are head ofs and GMs in the same business. And I just really love that program for them and that success that they've had. And I remember them on the first day and they weren't feeling so sure of themselves then, but they've certainly been able to really find their way.
Oh, it's so cool. And it's the same with people that work in, entry-level recruitment, like contact center recruitment, volume recruitment. And, I specialized in that space for a little while, and I hear this from a lot of people that have continued in that space. It's that satisfaction of seeing someone so early in their career become so successful when you reflect and look back. Yeah. And you think, I remember when they walked in that room and they were so nervous and that I gave them their first opportunity. And when they become a head of or GM or even CEO, I mean, that's awesome. Like you've really changed someone's life. Like you've sparked that career. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I think the other thing, like just a funny little tidbit, of course, having worked with so many, like thousands of students and grads over a 13-year career in this specialization, we've also had grads on the program that have got married and had children. So that's also another really weird, like little, I guess like the joy of the program is like these people also meet each other and there's a great cohort, not necessarily always ending in relationships and children, but I do like that next generation of graduate talent that's coming through. But yeah, I think that it's a really great cohort to be in around. I love being around young people generally, even in the business that I run, which we'll talk a little bit about. We have just we've hired grads previously, and our newest grad just started on Tuesday last week. So we're really passionate about hiring grads in our own business as well. And it helps us be really on the pulse when it comes to what's happening in the industry and also what's the student sentiment is when it comes to recruitment and work and those sorts of things.
Fabulous. Well, speaking of which, and the rubber band community, where Local First, we're so passionate about local businesses, local innovation. Brightworks has been a huge Aussie success story. So firstly, congratulations and something to be celebrated. Tell us all about it. Like, tell us about Brightworks and maybe some of the lessons that you've learned along the way, having such a successful business. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually been a really humbling experience as well, because I think when you go out on your own, like I went out on my own 4 years ago, just before the pandemic hit. So I think we can all, imagine the stressful scenario I'd put myself into. And, I've got a family and I've got kids and, I've got other responsibilities as well, of course, outside of work. But yeah, there's been a lot of I guess I've really learned a lot about myself during the process of running my own business. I've always wanted to run my own business. That's probably the key thing I would say is I was always looking for that thing where I would be able to use this kind of entrepreneurial creativity or creative side of myself. Like I've always got so many ideas. My team wants me to shut up most of the time because they're like, we're just trying to invent the next thing. Stop coming up with new ideas. But I feel really creative, and I feel like I get to use that creative outlet. And I know what I'm good at now, and I'm able to leverage that to be successful in business. And I really like the business development side and the relationship side and the problem solving side of business. So that's been really an interesting process. In terms of how we started, it was just me for the first 2 and a bit years. It was just me. I was working as a consultant, working across different organizations to help them mainly with strategy work. So mainly looking at early careers strategy and how to best implement a grad or internship program or reinvent what they were doing, like review and conduct a health check and then recommendations for what they were doing in that space. And then I had this pivotal moment in 2021 where I lost a little bit of confidence, if I'm honest. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. And then I had 5 proposals out at the time, and I decided to take a part-time position with an organization to build a grad program. And then all 5 proposals landed. And I was in this situation where I was like working 20 hours a day. I had to bring other people in. So I was supported by Kelly Pfeffer, who is
I love Kelly. Yeah.
Amazing. Like if you're going to get anyone in your business that runs early careers, you get Kelly in because she's just so knowledgeable and so amazing. So Kelly was really lovely and came and helped me out for about 6 months just to get me through this period. And it actually taught me a lesson around you've got to back yourself and knowing when it's time to actually take the full plunge. And so after that experience, I hired a grad and changed the name to Brightworks as it's known now. And I went for it. And we've coming up to our 2-year anniversary of that time, we've now got 3 main parts of the business. We're still working in that strategy space every day. We work with lots of different organizations in helping them either set up grad, internship, traineeship, apprenticeship programs, or fix the programs they've already got and ensure that they're, a best practice program that's really going to suit the needs of Gen Z specifically. We also support with outsourced marketing, attraction and recruitment. And we've got a great partnership with Noble Agency, so run by Ben DaCosta. So he's an award-winning, runs an award-winning marketing agency specialising in brand, an employer brand. So we partner with them to do grad campaigns, and we also run all the recruitment for those campaigns. And then the final piece of the puzzle is development. So we now have a full development suite. So once grads have been hired, we have a keep warm program before they start, and then a graduate development program called Bright Start, and it's focused on self-mastery workshops, mentoring programs, well-being and financial literacy programs. And so it means that for our clients, they might come and work with Brightworks for one of those 3 things, or they might use us end to end. And it means that we can fulfill all of their early careers needs and support them with what things they might actually need support with along the way.
Incredible. And you have how many hours of sleep every night?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the cloning. You know what it is? I think as we've grown, like we have grown rapidly, is knowing when you need to bring in the next person. And that's sometimes, and finding the right person. And, we're still a startup, we don't have the biggest budgets in the world, and we're competing with companies that have been around a lot longer than us as well. And so they've got established programs. They're not spending as much money in developing new things because they've already done it before. Or so the flip side of that is that everything we're doing is like cutting edge. It's just been developed for what we need right now. So I'm really pleased to have had that opportunity. But it's also knowing when you need to bring in specialists and also when you need to bring in more people. And so Brightworks is just about to hit 8 employees. Fantastic. And we have a team of another 6, 7, 8 people that support us as consultants outside of our core team of 8. So
I love it.
To answer your question, I'm really tired, but I love it too.
It's our philosophy of supporting local businesses and local innovation, and supporting Brightworks, and all the companies that have supported have created those 8 employment opportunities for local talent. So that it's fabulous. And thanks for calling out Noble Agency. They're a rubber band partner, so big shout out to them as well. Check out their website. And Kelly, that you mentioned, if you are working in early careers, jump onto Facebook. There is an amazing Facebook group called Grad Hero Hub. I'm a big fan of it and very active in it. So listeners and watchers, check it out as well. Now let's talk about interns. Let's talk about why. So why or when should a company consider employing an intern, and what value will they bring to the team and the company? So why should we look at interns?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think interns are a really key part of early careers that are often overlooked. A lot of
Mm,
companies look at grad programs as particularly at the moment, because there's been hiring challenges with skilled staff. During COVID, but certainly after COVID, there was a lot of impact and stress in the Australian market around this lack of supply of experienced people, and companies were looking at grad programs as a way to kind of solve that issue. Kind of bring people in and train them up and retain them for as long as you possibly can retain a grad. The
yeah.
thing that piece of the puzzle that was missing is the internship programs, which is a really great pipeline into either a grad program or a permanent role. It doesn't have to be a grad program. It doesn't have to be a formal program at all. It could just be a really great way of accessing talent at that particular point of time in someone's career, and
Mm,
keeping them engaged with your business, and then potentially being able to offer them a role. The thing with interns that people don't tend to talk about is students can do multiple internships. So therefore, there's more volume in the internship market. You might get an intern who does an internship in their first year, their second year, third year, and fourth year if they're studying a 4-year degree. And that's many opportunities for a company to take on that individual and for them to build their work experience as well. Whereas the pool of grads is quite defined. It's like, this pool of grads has graduated this year. This is the group that aren't going overseas, and this is the ones that are going to be looking for a job. Whereas in the internship space, it's much more fluid in terms of the supply, and it can be much bigger. And also, if you open your minds and hearts to international students, there's also great talent in the international student market as well, which is also really accessible through internship programs particularly, and then can be really easily brought on into your business after the program because of the graduate visa that they usually work under. So interns are really a kind of a missing link. A lot of companies will have a grad program. Oh, I shouldn't say a lot. Like mid to large companies might have a formal grad program. Some don't. Some smaller companies have some sort of graduate pipeline. But internship programs for me, if you don't have anything, they're a great way to pilot early careers in your company. They cost less. It's a shorter time commitment that you're committing to taking someone on and seeing how they go in the actual team and in the environment and in the organization doing the work that you do. And so you can really do a thorough assessment of whether that person's going to be suitable. And it's a really great way of bringing, diverse talent into your business for a short period of time to then make that decision to continue that in a longer term capacity.
Yeah, and look, it's really interesting. Just wanted to go back a little bit on one of the comments that you made there. If a lot of the rubber band community, they could be recruitment agencies that have just started up, or there's even people like me that have very, very small businesses. Could we hire an intern? Like, we don't need to be a large corporate with a big brand. Like, you could just be a sole trader and employ an intern, or a very small business. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. And that comes to our newest program, which I'll talk about in a minute. There are a lot of small businesses that take interns through the university models. So they might look to take an internship, an intern through a placement model like work integrated learning or industry-based learning or placements. So these are students that are studying, and they complete an internship for free, essentially. They work for your business for free, and in return, they receive credit for their time. Now, a lot of small businesses are really attracted to that for multiple reasons. One, it kind of gives them an entry point into early careers. It means that they don't have to spend money on having a person in their business. And as someone who used to run that program for Monash, I'm supportive of that model because I think it gives students employment outcomes, or at least some work experience. One of the challenges with that model, and for smaller businesses particularly, is the rules around fair work and what that intern is actually allowed to do when they're not actually being paid. And that's why we've created BrightSparks, which I'll talk about in a little bit of time. But essentially, there's this gap in the market where companies that are smaller really do, and could provide a very appropriate environment for an intern to come in, but they're putting themselves at risk by using a model that they don't fully understand.
Yeah.
And also with the university models is a little bit of a lack of choice around the interns that you'll get. And from an equity point of view, there's a lack of equity in those programs because it's only students that can afford to work for free that actually do those programs. So from a diversity perspective, anyone who cannot afford to work 3 months for free, and I think we can all question whether we'd be able to do that ourselves even now, as many years into our careers as we are, that's a really big ask to ask someone to do. And it means that people who have any sort of financial responsibilities, caring responsibilities, or, potentially as an international student or otherwise, it's a real barrier to being able to participate in the university programs. And that's why the program we've created, BrightSparks, is a paid internship model. And it is designed for smaller organisations who just want to take 1 or 2 interns as opposed to setting up a big program.
Excellent. I can't wait to hear more about it. But let's just talk about, we've talked about the benefits for organizations in terms of bringing in interns. There are obviously huge benefits for the intern. So, can you recall some success stories of interns that you've seen really develop their skills or have become highly successful through engaging in an intern program with an organization? Have you got some really cool examples you can share?
Yeah, I think just broadly, before we get into specifics, I think broadly internship programs are great to give, from a student perspective, to give them a view into the business world. They really don't know much. I'm not saying they don't know much in terms of coming into your business and being effective in your business. What I mean is that their worlds are quite small because they're just coming into the employment market. So often the brands they're looking at, they know big brands, they might not know smaller brands. They might not understand truly what a role is. So sometimes we use language like it might be a business analyst. Well, what does a business analyst actually do? What does that look like from a day-to-day perspective? So from a student point of view, it means that they actually get to try that career that they're spending upwards of $50,000 to train in. They actually get to see whether it's what they thought it would be. And it really gives them exposure into a real working environment, the pressures of a working environment as well, like the expectations that come from working as, a member of staff in an organization, and that real experience of being on the job in the industry that they've selected. So from that point of view, I think it's a really, there's benefits to interns and there's benefits to companies, but from a student perspective, it's like sometimes the success story is, and I've seen this happen before, is they go, actually, that's not necessarily what I thought it was going to be. And I'm going to change my tact, or I'm going to change my approach. Some of the best success stories when it comes to interns for me have been where I've worked with a highly prescriptive individual. So that's someone who's finished high school, they've picked certain subjects in year 11 and 12. They've gone into the particular course they want to do, and they're highly prescriptive. They want to work here, X, and they've got this idea, I'm going to work here and I'm going to do this and I'm going to, and this is what my life's going to be, and that's going to be all planned out. And the best success stories are the ones where they have an experience that's different to what they expected, and they realize the value of the different experience. And also sometimes working in a smaller company is actually better for an intern because you get to do lots of different things.
Broader. Yeah, agreed.
So much broader. I mean, even if I think about my personal career when I was at NAB and I worked in HR running the grad program, I was one of 400 people that worked in HR at NAB. Like, I was specialized in terms of I specialized in this program. But, if I had a problem with, I had a question about remuneration or reward or performance or capability, we had teams of people that's just what they did, whereas in a smaller organization, you get exposure to so much different stuff. And they're the best success stories when it comes to interns, where they change their mind is probably where I'm going. And they really say, I had this idea about what I wanted to do, but I actually didn't know everything. I hadn't seen the full picture. And now that I've had a little bit of a look at that, I actually really want to do this and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, that's fab. I love it. And I think it is. I think when you're studying, you might think, hey, I want a career in one of the big four. But then when you get exposure to the mid-tier or even small businesses, you're right. Like the breadth of experience that you can gain. I've always enjoyed smaller organizations myself because I feel like I'm learning loads of new things. And quite often in the big organizations, it's very siloed and it's hard to get that exposure to the team. So I completely agree. That's really cool. Really cool. Now, let's get into the fun part. Okay, let's get into the fun part. You've talked about it briefly. Congratulations on the launch of BrightSparks, powered by Brightworks.
Thank you.
What is the BrightSparks program? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so BrightSparks has really been a passion project of ours that we have been thinking about for about 18 months. But we have finally got our ducks together and launched this year. Essentially, what was happening, since I started the business is I would go and talk to organizations about their early careers challenges and program challenges, resourcing challenges, and needs in this particular sector. And for bigger companies or medium to large enterprise, they have established programs. They might have capacity and capability in house to manage those programs. But what I was finding when I was talking to smaller organizations or companies that didn't have anything already in terms of an early careers program, I really felt like there was this gap. It's like, I want an internship program. I want to pay. I want to get the best. Like, I want to be competitive in the market, but I don't have the capacity to run this myself. I don't have capacity to build a brand in the student market when it's absolutely saturated with brands anyway. I don't know how to, I don't have capacity to run recruitment. And we know that grad recruitment or student recruitment is, a specialized, it's like a niche way of recruiting. And I don't want to manage a program. And so that's why we developed BrightSparks. As a team, we went away and we ran a design thinking methodology, which was super fun. We went away on an offsite in June and we ran a design thinking strategy to completely map this program with our users in mind. And the program that we've developed is what is essentially a centrally managed internship program for companies that might want to take one intern and they might want to take 6 interns, but they want them to be on a program and they want all of those things that I just discussed to be taken care of. So BrightSparks is centrally managed in the sense that we've already advertised for the program. We have 600 interns ready to go. Applications have just closed for the program for the students. And they're going through our recruitment process at the moment, and we're assessing their applications and assessing their video interviews as a team. And then we're running that recruitment process, and then we're working with partner organisations who would like an intern on the program, and we're providing them with a shortlist to select from, so they can run their own, interviews with them, make their own selections. And then once those selections are made, the program will run from end of November until the end of February this year. And the program will be centrally managed by us. So we'll have all the interns start on the same day. They go through an induction day where they have workshops with our team on critical areas that we know that students need to develop to help them transition from study into employment. We also have partnered with a micro-learning app called Learner, so they have access to that app and they can get bite-sized business content that's been specifically designed for Gen Z. So they've got that app, they've got access to our learning portal online, so they can talk to us, they can talk to each other, and they have this full program experience whilst being in all different companies, at the one time. And for the businesses, the way we're supporting them, aside from the process and taking the hassle away from the recruitment, is we're also supporting them with development as well. So we're providing 2 workshops for the managers of the interns. One's on leading Gen Z talent, essentially. So how to get the most out of this generation and how to lead your intern really effectively. And the second one is around effective feedback and active listening, because this age group particularly needs feedback much more regularly than once a quarter or once in a blue moon performance process that some of us old people go through. So they like lots of feedback, and so we really help the intern managers to really understand that and package that up and be able to provide that just in time feedback for them. And so the whole program is supported both from the manager side and also the intern. And so we're really hoping this will help fill this gap that we've seen. The number of companies that say, oh, I want to bring someone in, but we're not big enough, or want to bring someone in, but we can't do it ourselves, or we don't know how to do it, or we want to, we've tried to contact a university, but, it's very difficult to kind of find the front door of a uni, or we want to pay our interns, which is what we are promoting. We want to get the best. And so that's why we built the program.
Oh, I love it. And look, tell me a little bit more about Gen Z there. Like, what are they? You talk about the language of Gen Z, and I'm definitely not Gen Z, as those who know me know, in my 40s. But what you talked about feedback as being one of those, really important. They need it live, right? They need live feedback. What other things? What else are they looking for? So if you were to hire an intern, what are some of those tips there that how to manage them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm also not a Gen Z. I am what's called geriatric millennial, because I am 40 years old. So I love the generation stuff. I find it really interesting. And the first thing I would say is, if you are interested in generational data, the best resource, I think, in Australia is McCrindle, which is a demographic research company out of Sydney. And they do really interesting, easy to digest generational studies and they've got great infographics to kind of break down the generation. So if you're interested, I would have a look at McCrindle. In terms of the generations, so Gen Z, just to define that, they are born between 95 and 2010. So the eldest of them is 28. Like, they're not exactly, they're not exactly young. Like, I'm not saying that's not young, because it's younger than me, but they're sort of well into work now, whether they've got a degree or not, whether they've worked lots of different things, or they've worked in one organization, they are in work now at 28. And what they're looking for from work is very different to previous generations, because of the environment that they've grown up in, that they are true digital natives. Like, they've quite literally never lived in a world without the internet. They have answers at their fingertips when they need them. So stuff like memory recall is not something that this generation has ever valued, because they can just look things up. Whereas I can still remember my best friend's phone number from year 8, these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting change in terms of the way, not only memory is one thing, but not only the way they seek to understand, the way they seek information, the way they engage at work. And probably the key things that we find with this digital generation is that they really value organisations that align with their values. They are looking for equity. They've grown up with it. Like, they are not asking people to, they're expecting organisations to align to their values, and they won't work for your organisation if it doesn't. So if they have a particular political view, or it might be an environmental view, or it might be around inclusion, like true inclusion, they'll be looking to organisations to really uphold those values. And so they're really looking for purpose-led environments and purpose-led work. The other thing that they're really interested in is seeing the career path. So organisations that can really accurately say, look, you come in as an intern and this is what the program will look like, and then this is our path for you. A lot of organisations don't talk about someone's path. They don't talk about their talent pool. They don't talk about succession planning. It's happening in some organisations. But the people they've identified, or they'd be really good as into the next role as a team leader, they don't necessarily tell that person that's hidden. Their plan.
Yeah.
It's hidden.
Yeah.
Whereas this generation, and I think every generation anyway, but certainly this generation really wants to see the career path. They want to understand it. Now, that doesn't mean, and it's a false narrative, that they want to be CEOs tomorrow. If anything, my generation, millennials, wanted to be CEOs tomorrow. So that's more of a millennial thing. With Gen Z, they just want to understand what that path looks like, and that how they can get to different places, and understanding what the path they need to take. The other thing they're really interested in, so we've talked about feedback, is they also are really interested in getting dedicated learning and development. So something that's been personalised. And part of that is because everything is personalised. They open Netflix. Netflix sees what they've watched previously and suggests new shows. They open the Spotify app and the same thing happens. And that's how they get introduced to new music, is because they already like Taylor Swift, and then they get introduced to something else that's like her. Nothing's like her, but you know what I'm going at. Same with podcasts. Podcasts, another example, what's trending? How is this being fed into me? And so through the whole process of hiring interns and grads and young people generally, they're looking for automation. They're looking for it to be personalized. And so if you can create a program that has a personalized feel to it, even if it is at scale, has a personalized learning program for them, even if it is at scale, it's giving that sense that this is just for you. And we've done this because you need to develop these particular things, as opposed to this person who's to develop other things. So those are the key things: purpose, career path, values. Sorry, I've talked about that. Values. Flexibility is another key one. So true flexibility, like we all want, and a dedicated learning and development process. So that's sort of this key to success for this particular generation.
Fantastic. And do you know what? It's really funny. Sometimes, you're in conversations, at our generation, I suppose, and we'll look at the younger generations and kind of roll our eyes a little bit and think they're entitled. But everything that you described there, they're really decent folk. Like when you talk about purpose and values, and that, they want to work for organizations that are doing good or that are aligned to their views. Like they're an awesome generation. And
they are. They really are. And I think that every generation thinks the one below them are idiots, or, like they're entitled. Entitled is a word that gets used a lot.
Totally.
I just see with this group, like the things, even stuff around like neurodiversity, this generation are all over neurodiversity. They've got friends that either themselves as, potentially being diagnosed on the spectrum, or with ADHD or dyslexia or whatever form of neurospicy they are. And they're really comfortable talking about it. So even as an organization, if you are hiring any sort of people under 30, you really do have to have a process to really understand the best assessment for people who are neurodivergent. And the reason I bring that up is because we use a specialized process for neurodivergent candidates, because so many candidates in Gen Z already know. They've been diagnosed, they're well aware, and they're not afraid to talk about what their needs might be. And we really want to make sure that we're at the forefront of helping them be their best self in the recruitment process. The other thing is around gender and also around pronouns. Stuff like that is super important. So being really upfront around inclusion of everyone, and they're looking to that. They want people. I've got my pronouns in my little thing there today. Like they look for that sort of stuff as a signal. I can be myself. People are talking about this and they've acknowledged what their pronouns are. So therefore, I feel like I can write what mine are and be open to what that is.
Amazing. Go Gen Z, right?
Yeah, they're cool. They're great. I mean, some of the things they do drive me batty. Don't get me wrong. It's not all, sometimes I think, can you please get on the phone and call? Like, they're such scared of these. Like, I'm like, it's not that scary, but, part of it is just exposure. They haven't had a lot of exposure. So,
Yeah. So look, anyone out there that is working in talent acquisition or recruitment, like why should talent acquisition teams engage with BrightSparks specifically? Like what are your key differentiators to other ways of engaging interns?
Yeah, I think, as I said, there are different models. I think for our program, it's a really nice program to start this pathway of early careers in your business. We hold your hand and we take away all the difficult parts of that process. So that's one of the benefits, is that it is actually managed for you. It's an end-to-end management service. We also know what we're talking about. So we really get Gen Z. Like as I said, our processes are specifically designed for candidates, not just neurodiverse candidates, but just Gen Z candidates. Our process is short and snappy because we know that they have, we all have shorter attention spans, and we know how to get the most out of them. We're giving them hints and tips along the way. So we're really committed to giving them dedicated feedback throughout the process. And so we're providing them with tips for the recruitment process, tips for interviews. Everyone who doesn't get through based on their video interview is getting personalised feedback. We have committed to doing that to help them learn about the areas they need to develop. So you can partner with a company that actually really cares about the candidate experience and is trying to help this generation better prepare for a recruitment process. And you can also benefit from, ensuring that they get really good development on the program, as well as your people getting development. So it's also about making sure that the environment that interns are walking into is well structured, has a really good manager who is confident in their ability to manage that talent, and can also provide the boundaries and work description that person needs to be successful in their role. And so essentially it's just all done for you. I mean, I think it's something like 50 years of collective early careers experience in Brightworks as a business. Like, we have been in this industry. We've got former teachers in our business. We've got people who have been interns on internship programs, worked in recruitment, worked in different size programs, worked at universities, worked as career counsellors. We've got coaches. Like, we've got a lot in our business, and we're basically taking all of that IP and rolling it into a program that we know is going to work.
Fantastic. So you're taking that, because I know someone like myself with a small business, it's that fear of, am I going to do it in the right way? And you're taking all of that pressure off, because engaging with BrightSparks is having that support network and taking away all those pressures, but also you're getting the benefit of the intern. And is that support ongoing as well? Like, if I was to engage an intern and I was like, oh, what do I do here? I can't speak Gen Z language. What do I do? Is that ongoing support there, that they can reach out to BrightSparks to say, hey, this situation is, in front of me. I'm not sure how to tackle it, or how should I, continue to support this intern, or all of those kind of things?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The program is completely managed for the whole program is managed. So the program, as I said, starts at the end of November, and we do want all the interns and businesses to start on the same day if possible. And it will run as a formal program right through until February. So that through that entire time, we will be checking in with both the interns and the managers to make sure that we're addressing any feedback, any concerns, helping manage any performance issues if there are any. Like, we want the program to be successful. So we are invested in making sure that we're supporting businesses to support the interns. After the program finishes, we are not charging. We do have a cost for the program, but in terms of if you want to keep the intern that you have after the program, there's no further fees. You can offer them a job on the spot. You can say, okay, we loved having you on the BrightSparks program. We'd like you to stay with us until you finish your studies. Can you work with us part-time until that happens? Or some of our interns are ready to finish. They're finishing uni in, kind of the end of this year, around or mid next year. Some are finishing mid next year. So they're sort of almost ready for those jobs. They're not quite there. They've got a little bit of study to go. And so with those, you could offer them a job immediately and then just take them on. We see it as a pathway program. We want to create a pathway. Ideally, we'd love the outcome that they get employed, but it's not actually a requirement of the program, and there's no cost associated with doing that. And so that's our goal, is to create pathways for organisations. The other thing just worth mentioning is that we are running this as a summer program, because that's when the uni students have the biggest break. So have this 3-month break. Of course, half of them are going to Europe. Let's not talk about them.
FOMO.
FOMO, complete FOMO. So, there is always that, this period of time, but that's just what we see on social media. A lot of people don't go to Europe. A lot of people can't afford to go to Europe. And a lot of people that have summer jobs, and this is just another alternative for that person to have like a real work experience. We have started to talk with some companies that are like, oh, well, what about Christmas? And, how do we manage that? And so for the program, it does go for 12 weeks, but we are recommending companies close the program for 2 weeks over the Christmas New Year period, so that the actual paid component is 10 weeks. So a little bit of time before Christmas and then a little bit of time after Christmas. We think that will work quite well. And we are also looking at an option to run a winter vacation program next year over the July semester break, if there's interest.
Oh, fantastic. And look, you did mention price. Am I allowed? Can I be bold enough to ask you what that cost is? Is that okay, or is it something that's bespoke depending on the organisation's needs?
No, we're really transparent about pricing. I think that because we're being transparent about wanting our interns to be paid, and I think we've explained that well in terms of why we want that. The program cost is, we have a setup fee. Well, the first intern is $4,900 for the program. So it's just under $5,000, which is very, very reasonable given given how much work is going into the program.
Mm.
So the first intern is 4,900, and then every intern that you take in addition is 3,500. So for those companies that want to take 2, it's about 8 and a bit.
Right.
And so some of our companies we've got one company taking 6, and theirs is around 22, the program itself. So the more you take, you obviously have that discount of the additional interns. And because it is a paid program, for those that are really interested and want to be able to think realistically about budget, it's about 20 grand, the whole program, including our fee, including having enough money to pay that intern for their time. Which is not a huge cost to bring in that talent and see if they're right for your business. And bearing in mind, the interns we have are are going through a rigorous recruitment process. They're not just anyone that's going to be put into your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other fear that people might have, particularly from smaller businesses, is understanding award rates or how much you pay an intern, and all of that is taken care of through yourself. Is that right? It's like you provide that guidance on fair work and yeah.
So we provide guidance. We've also got the industry standard when it comes to the graduate industry. So the AAGE, which is the Australian Association of Graduate Employers, they provide it, we can see what others are paying, so we can actually see what the market is paying in terms of the support of, that intern for that period. We can provide recommendations, but I think it is worth mentioning that they do need to have an employment contract with your company, because they're all going to be working in different companies. So if that's a barrier for you around being able to bring someone in, then maybe this program isn't for you right now.
Yeah, cool. Fantastic. Well, how should our listeners and our viewers contact you? So if they're interested in even having a conversation about an intern, they're not quite sure yet, or they're ready to go, how do they reach out to you, Lou?
Yes, so probably the best way is through our website, because there's quite a lot of information on there for employers and for the students. So our website is brightworks.net.au, and we have a dedicated section for BrightSparks on our website. If you're an employer and you want to find out more, we actually have a form, a really easy to fill in form on our website that just asks for some basic information. And that information then you'll be sent some stuff automatically, and then someone from the team will reach out to make a time to meet with you. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, you can do that on email, which is lou@brightworks.net.au. Also on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. Our business is quite active on LinkedIn. And we do try and be regular contributors to the LinkedIn community. So that's also another really good way. And of course, if you look up Lou Z, there's not many of us. So it's nice to have an unusual, surname starting letter. So yeah, Lou Zoanetti on LinkedIn is a really easy way to find me.
Fabulous. Rhymes with spaghetti. And
Exactly.
If all else fails, listeners, viewers, reach out to myself and I will introduce you. So you've got all sorts of channels to get in touch. And I think it's one of those programs that even if you're curious about it, have a look at it, because it's really interesting. And I think sometimes we don't realize the benefits and the value that, having an intern in your organization brings, even from a diversity perspective, or, even just the joy of providing someone that opportunity that's going to kickstart their career. When we were talking earlier about how exciting it is when you reflect back, when you've given someone a really early opportunity in their career and you see them 5 to 10 years later, so successful, and knowing that you were all part of that journey, even hiring an intern just for that reason is so wonderful and so rewarding. So please do reach out to Lou and BrightSparks. Lou, it has been an absolute pleasure catching up with you as always.
Yes, love catching up with you, Eden. Thanks for all your support as well. You've been always so supportive of the business and this new initiative. I really appreciate it all.
And likewise, thank you so much for your support for the Rubber Band community, Lou, yourself and the entire Brightworks team. Listeners and watchers, remember we've got our big event coming up in October on the 4th and 6th of October. It is online. It is completely free. It is accessible to all. Anyone can come along at rubberband.com.au/bounce3. If you have enjoyed today's podcast, if you're a podcast listener, make sure you subscribe. Lou and I are going to continue our chat. But for everyone out there, thank you so much for joining today, and see you for the next episode.
Bye. Thanks for having me.